Hey, and welcome to another episode of Dumb and Dumbest. I'm your host, Matt Bacon, with my friend Curtis Dewar from dewarpr. I work at Dropout Media, a million other places. Anyway, so we're here to talk to you about quite a few things. This is obviously sort of a music business podcast for DIY bands. You can hear Curtis's beautiful children laughing in the background because
We're in their yard.
This is a place of fun and light and adventure.
Yes, it is.
So, in the name of fun and light and adventure, we are going to talk about fucking idiots.
Remember, there's children here, Matt. There's children here, Matt.
Okay, I'm sorry. I needed it for dramatic effect. I apologize to your children.
They're okay with it. They've heard me use the F-bomb, so I think they're fine.
Anyway. So,
my wife's probably more traumatized than anybody.
The point being, what we're going to talk about, and we see that Curtis and I see this happen time and time again, because this is like the people we... Early on, I think that we tried to sell our services to. I think we've kind of learned sort of through attrition about customer targeting.
Yeah, we have.
Right? But what I'm talking about, and this is a thing, and people don't believe me when I tell them this is a thing, by the way, which is funny. Like people outside of music don't believe me when I tell them this is a thing. Bands who will literally spend cumulatively $20,000 on gear, $5,000 in the studio, 3 years to write a record.
Yeah.
Maybe they even bought a tour van, which is another few $1,000s at minimum if you have a really crappy tour van.
And don't forget, a lot of them will even press vinyl and buy CDs and tapes.
Yeah, they press vinyl and buy CDs and tapes. Sometimes they invest in a really nice website, or they spend like if you want a good piece of art, a lot of. This isn't always the case, and you can get a good deal. But like I'm saying, like for a pro level band, the budget for art is like $1,000.
Yeah.
So they spend all this money, and then they don't do anything to market or promote it.
They just think if you build it, they will come. It's like they think they're Kevin Costner in the Field of Dreams,
or Wayne and Garth in Wayne's World 2.
I forgot about that part, but yes, you're right. They could think they're Wayne and Garth. Maybe they think they're Beavis and Butthead.
Oh yeah, I actually only know that. I've seen Field of Dreams, but I haven't seen it in like 15 years, maybe.
Me too. I think I saw it like 1991, 1992, whatever year it came out.
There you go.
The concept, to my recall, is that if you build it, you will come, which is basically the concept we're trying to talk about today.
Yeah, and that's not... Okay, now, first of all, I want to talk about why that's a myth that exists, because it is. And I kind of assert it. There's obviously a ton of weird bands from the 90s who didn't do any promotion, but suddenly got big.
Well, yes and no, but most of them actually were doing behind-the-scenes promo.
Yeah, but
almost everybody who gets big has done something.
Yeah, there's two examples that I think really fuck people up and have kind of added to the mythos. And those are Neutral Milk Hotel and American Football.
I don't know those bands, but the other one I can think of, just for a more mainstream reference, is Justin Bieber.
Yeah, but...
He was a pure fluke, pretty much, because he got discovered on MySpace or whatever it was.
Yeah. But even then, when Justin Bieber was discovered by Scooter Braun was looking for a very specific thing.
That's true.
You know what I mean? Which, your average group of ugly metal dudes do not represent.
Mainly, yes, you're right. And most of them aren't going to be on the cover of Teen Vogue or whatever the heck it's called.
Yeah. There are metal bands who did, fit the profile of what the label was looking for. Like, maybe the label was like, oh, we need a stoner band, and this is a stoner band who represent this demographic.
Yeah.
Or even that's really how Scooter Braun, who's one of the big managers in music, does it. Is he'll be like, same with the I Love College guy. What's his name?
I don't know who that is.
I can look.
Anyways, the point is they're looking for something.
Yeah, Asher Roth when he discovered Asher Roth, he was looking for something very specific, right?
Yeah.
Now,
and those examples are few and far between, like you said. Just want to punch up that point.
Yeah, but again, I appreciate that in the underground, you can find out about a band like American Football who literally recorded the record after they had decided to break up.
Yeah.
And the guys in American football didn't even realize they were legends until like 15 years later. There's a
Jeez.
really good article in Noisy about it when
Wow.
like one of the dudes was a college professor and like some kid came up and was like, you have 2.5 million scrobbles on
Hilarious.
Last.fm, and he was like, oh,
That's hilarious.
Point being, that's not going to happen to you.
Yeah.
Like that like American football may be one of your favorite bands. They're one of my favorite bands. But like, do you know how many other emo bands were in that scene at that time? And
Yep.
beyond that, like even with American football, I feel like Neutral Milk Hotel is maybe more of a fluke. But like at least Neutral Milk Hotel were touring and were on like a small label, and it was still like the other thing is that those bands, and again, I choose those bands because I think they're both late 90s bands.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people who are sort of in the 25 to 35 demographic putting out music are aware of them.
I've never heard of them, but I'll just put that out there.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying I'm just using them as the two
I know.
examples I think of.
I'm just nodding my head, pretending like I know what you're talking about.
No, of course. And I'm not, I get it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
You're also not, and I'm not trying to be a dick, but you're not the right age.
Well, almost, but not quite yet.
Yeah. But point being, and beyond that, like those records are also like fucking genre defining. Like, so yes, hypothetically you could have written the best record possible, which is what happened with those two bands, but they weren't really expecting to become icons out of the thing they did.
No, and they also didn't probably spend like 20 grand like you're talking about too to put the records together either.
Yeah. But regardless.
Yeah.
That's where that myth comes from, is bands like that. And I appreciate that to an extreme, because it's an easy myth to want to buy into, is that if I put out something that really defines the status of the genre, I am going to get the artistic attention I deserve.
Well, here's what's funny is that a lot of times, like we all know, the bands that suck the most are the ones that end up getting the most attention and making the most money because they market themselves.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
And this is what I'm trying, like, look at Attila. Like, I guarantee you Franzak does not think Attila is a good band.
I highly doubt he does either. But at the same time, he knows his market. He knows what he's going for, and he does it great. He's amazing in that regard.
Like, I enjoy Attila because it makes me laugh.
I don't even really. Well, I like it from a marketing standpoint. Like when I see what he does, it like at first, like a few years ago, before I'd really studied anything on marketing, I thought he was an idiot. But then after I'd read a few marketing books, I'm like, I totally see what he's doing. It's brilliant in actual fact.
Oh no, yeah, we should have him on the pod. I'm sure he would come on this podcast.
Did I? Well, I told you I was thinking about joining his thing where you get his personal numbers. If I do that, I'll see if I can score that.
Yeah. Anyway, spend money on marketing. Like you could literally have, like if bands spent literally half of their recording budget on marketing, they would sell 5 times the records.
Well, here's the other thing too. It's not even necessary. One other thing that I noticed that bands will do is that they'll go cheap on the marketing, like you said, and just put it out and then expect people to listen to it. But then they also won't even do anything on social media to top it off, because you could also theoretically, and you could theoretically sell a ton of albums just by social media too. Like if you knew what you were doing, if you wanted to put the time and effort into it. Like look at Allfather. They sold, I think it was 60, 70 CDs already, and they're doing it themselves and they're using my PR obviously, but I mean a lot of that's due to the fact that Tom's beating social media to death.
Oh, definitely.
He's insane with Twitter. He's on it like 24/7. He shows his family, and he talks to people, so, and he's shifting units that way. He's not, but he also invested the money in PR, but I'm just saying that you got to be doing all those things, right?
Yeah, inarguably. I think that a lot of people, again, if you spend significantly more than like $5,000 on your record and are unwilling to spend any money on your, on getting it out there, which is something I see all of the time, you need to like reevaluate, because again, how do you find, here's what I always tell bands who don't want to spend money, right?
Yeah.
Is how do you find out about music?
Well, can I point something out, or are you
Sure.
are you about to say something important?
Well, what I was going to say basically is how you find out about music by either rule of sevens in advertising, right? Like
Yeah.
you see something 7 times and eventually you buy it because you saw it so many times.
Or unless you're like us and see it once and go, hey, that looks cool, and buy it because we're suckers. But yeah.
No, yeah, but broadly speaking, rule of sevens is a thing.
Yeah.
So you can follow the rule of sevens, or you can have your friends talking about it.
Yeah.
And there's 2 ways to get people's friends talking about it. And really the friends talking about it can be tied into the rule of sevens.
Yeah.
And how do you get people talking about your record? By talking about it on social media, non-fucking stop.
Yeah.
Which is free. And what I've noticed is that the bands who don't want to spend money on marketing, are also the bands who don't really want to invest time on social media.
That's 100% true. Well, one other thing I want to also point out, sorry if I'm interrupting something else important, but before I forget, is that a lot of people think it's easy to do their own PR. And 99.9% of the time, the guys that think it's going to be so easy to get reviews and do their own PR end up falling flat on their face and getting nothing because they don't have the contacts.
I will say, I feel like PR has gotten, and obviously this is more your field, Curtis, but I feel fairly safe in saying that PR has gotten notably harder in the last 3 years.
Undoubtedly. Well, here's the thing, is that there's so many people that are popping up thinking that they can do it. Like every week, it seemed for a long time, like every journalist was trying to start their own PR business.
Oh, yeah.
And they all thought that they could do it, and then they'd hit up because they knew someone at Noisy or they knew someone at Pitchfork, and then they'd get the one placement, and that was it. And then, suddenly people are mad at them because they're not able to get them placements. Like there's one guy right now that I know is a fact, because I've talked to some of his clients, that because he was in a known band, he gets piss poor results, and no one's coming back to him. You know what I mean? But he thinks he's a PR because he knows a couple journalists. But you don't have to know just a couple. You have to have a list, and you have to constantly be talking to people. And I think that's the thing.
I think a lot of that actually stemmed from a few very popular journalists who started doing PR well.
Well, yeah, Kim was probably the one that probably did it best. I mean, she's probably she was great at it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Kim did her own thing, but she went out of PR into Noisy. But I mean, other than her, I mean, I don't know of anyone else that's a big journalist. I can't think of anyone. I mean, Kim's like the one and only.
Jones did a really good job while she was still doing it.
Did she? I don't even remember. That was a few years ago, right?
Yeah,
so
I've known Kat. I knew she's kind of the reason I got involved in Stoner Rock.
Oh, is it? Okay. Yeah, I don't know much about how Southern Cross did, but
she sent me a lot of really cool records when I was a teenager. So I'll just write about everything she sent me.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, so there was Kat, there's Kim, and then what other journalists are there that have really done? I can't think of anybody. Maybe there is somebody, and I'm just blanking on them. But
I think that there's a lot of journalists. I think a lot of PR people start as journalists, but
they do. I did.
Yeah.
But I mean, but here's the thing, though, is it took me 3 years to be able to get dewarpr PR off the ground.
And so, right. So anyway, so to circle back, because we're getting off topic now.
We are getting off topic.
Is, and I made a Bacon's bit about this today, actually. And that was basic. And I basically just said, look, you can do a lot of this for free if you're going to invest 3 years in developing a network. My friends in Tungsten, again, this was a few years ago before it got so hard. My friends in Tungsten did their own PR and got 35 reviews because Ben was super, super plugged into the US Prague Power Connection board on Facebook, so like he, but he invested time. Like he was a power metal nerd for, 3 years building up to that record release. So when the record finally came out, it was like, oh, tight. You know what I'm saying? Like
I do. He invested the time is the thing.
Yeah.
Prior.
And
he didn't just make Field of Dreams, build it and they will come. He built it, but he also
exactly. He understood what he was doing, and he viewed it as a time saving mechanism.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
This is This is also this kind of ties into like a lot of like kind of shitty managers of like small DIY bands who really shouldn't have managers.
Yeah.
Because like where it'll just be like some connected person in the scene who
Yeah.
can sort of get them some shows.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like that's cool, I guess, but are they generating more work than they bring in? Like, are they really generating value?
Well, that's the thing. They're usually not.
You know, like I appreciate having like your girlfriend help you out. And I think, you know, and I appreciate like, you know, it's important to compensate that person.
Yeah.
That's condescending that I said girlfriend, but I mean like,
Yeah. Your brother, your uncle, or whatever
yeah,
it is.
whatever. Like
Yeah.
it's important to have those people helping you out.
Yeah.
You know, but also realize like that doesn't count as a marketing expense unless they're like a professional.
Well, that's the thing, is that if you get your brother, if you get your friend who doesn't know what they're doing to do it, but thinks that they know what they're doing because they've read one chapter out of a Gary V book or something, it's not going to work.
Yeah. Like I don't care that your manager is super motivated if they're not like working in music, you know.
Yeah. But reversely, at the same time, I mean, some people do fluke out and do a good job, but at the same time, it's very rare. That's the thing.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying don't have people help.
Yeah.
But just appreciate your friend managing you because they know a few local promoters is not the same as investing $500 in a PR campaign.
Agreed, 100%.
You know, and this is just sort of the long and short of it that I'm trying to get to is like,
yeah.
But again, if you focus on the long game, it's not going to cost you as much money. Fucking Elder never had PR.
Yeah.
And never had, you know, any of that shit. I remember trying to convince them back in 2012, maybe? No, 2013, 2014, it must have been.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know, because I was like a kid, but I was working for a PR company. I sort of was starting to understand how PR worked.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, so people just care? And Elder just built relationships. Like, they didn't really have a label. Even now, they don't really have a label. They have Nick, from what I understand, Nick works at a label, and he kind of uses that for distribution, but he's like the guy doing it all.
Yeah.
You know, and that's, you know, again, if you want to invest, do it. But like, don't blow smoke up your own ass and think you're making moves when you're not. You know,
exactly.
It's about concrete steps forward. This ties back into the last episode about listening to professionals, right? Is if you're not fucking making concrete moves, you're wasting time. And
part of that too is researching who you're going with.
Yeah. And that's what I was going to say is that researching who you're going with and where your money is going, broadly speaking. Because I also know people who'll be like, oh, we're going to spend $5,000, like literally $5,000 on a music video, and then not promote the music video, like
which is dumb.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I've had that so many times. A guy will put out a video, and then it'll be like, "Can you promote it?" And it's like, well, it's already out there. Like, what do you want me to do?
Yeah, and that's the final thing I want to touch on with like spending money and like being aware is like the promotional cycle is before the album comes out.
Always 100%, unless you're doing a re-release, and even then it can be touch and go.
Yeah. Now that being said, you know, the promotional cycle can extend to after, but most of the time, the only time it extends to after is because the pre-promo cycle did well, because you built up a demand.
Yeah.
People bought into the demand.
Yeah. And you've got other assets to promote, like a tour or a video or something.
A small animal. Yeah.
Small animal, whatever you want. Cat, dog.
Child,
whatever. Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Exactly. As long as you have an asset to promote, then you're good. But if you're just going on something old, people don't go for old nowadays.
Yeah. There's too much content to sift through.
Exactly. One thing I want to add too is that I've had a number of journalists actually tell me that they'll look at the release date, and if the release date is already passed, they delete the promo right away. Or if the release date's in a week, they'll delete the promo right away. Just as an FYI to any bands out there.
Yeah. I do that, and I don't know why.
I don't know what. Well, when I was a journalist, I never did that, but I know why people do it, because it's a quality, it's a filter, because there's just so much content, is what it seems like to me.
Yeah, I guess. It's just funny to me because, like, with Metal Injection, I have to do it that way. But with Two Guys Metal Reviews, which is my personal blog, it's really become very much a personal project in the last 2 years. Like, I've taken a lot of pressure off myself as other things have ramped up.
Yeah.
Which is fine. But like, it bothers me that I'm that adamant about not listening. Maybe it's just because I want people to do it right. God damn it.
Could be, or maybe you just want to tell them, hey, do it the right way, and then I don't know.
Yeah. Regardless.
But one other thing I wanted to just touch upon about that. The other thing with the promo cycle, your publicist cannot always work magic.
Yeah.
Neither can your manager. Generally, we do a lot of work. Here's a good example. I recently had, well, not so recently, but I've had clients in the past where they don't feel like, for example, with a album premiere or a track premiere or something like that, they might not like the fact that there's not a feature on it. Right?
Sure.
Sometimes that happens. Sometimes it doesn't. I mean, you can't do much on that, right? If the site decides they don't want to do a feature, publicists can't really do a lot about that unless your name is Metallica. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So magic does not always happen with that. So, yeah.
Yeah, but if you're patient, shit will work out.
It will. It always does work out. I mean, the thing is that being persistent and keeping going with your promo and your social media actions, it does eventually pay off. It doesn't always necessarily pay off within a few days or a few weeks, but sometimes it does.
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, I literally just had a conversation with a friend at Prophecy about how much of a crapshoot it can be, and how sometimes, you can be like Tenarwin and just have nothing happen for like 15, 20 years and then bam, be huge. Or other times it happens in 3 months.
Yeah.
Like Pallbearer,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've also had album, like, it's weird because sometimes you'll have things that you think are going to definitely go well. The album will be on a big label. Everything looks like it's aligned, and then it just falls flat. And no matter what you do, it just doesn't take off at the time. But then the next album, it works out great.
The unfortunate truth is that sometimes the music is for a time and place, right? And so, like,
exactly.
if you're like an art doom band and you release your record the same weekend as Pallbearer,
yeah,
you're kind of fucked.
Yeah.
And that's not to, and then simultaneously, sometimes the market is not hungry for your type of music, right?
Yeah.
The market does not give a shit that you put out the best tech death record. The market does not want tech death. So that's it.
Or they don't want that type of tech death at this time.
Yeah, exactly. Like, which is whatever. Like, that's like craziness aside, like, that's part of why the Faceless thing is not going super well, is because when the Faceless blew up in like 2008 or whatever, like, I remember being in middle school and thinking tech death was like the coolest thing ever.
Because it was.
Yeah.
At the time.
Yeah. And now it's just like, oh, okay, tech death is a thing.
Yeah. It's saturated.
Yeah, well, no, it's not even saturated. It's just the market is no longer hungry for tech death.
Yeah, because there were so many people put out so much stuff once it got popular, and now there's not as many, and it's kind of like, tech death.
Yeah, which is how market cycles work. Sometimes you're not the band for a time and place. That's just unfortunate, But
nowadays it's black metal.
Yeah.
It's the way it is.
Artsy black metal. A few years ago, it was doom and stoner.
Yep.
And right before that, it was prog.
Yeah, and then there was trad metal for a while.
Yeah, remember how much of 2012 was spent asking yourself, is gent a genre?
Was asking what? I couldn't hear that.
How much of 2012 was asking yourself, is gent a genre?
Oh, gent.
Yeah.
Now you just think it sucks.
I spent so much time when I was 16 thinking about that. Like, I wish I was joking. But that was like one of the biggest questions of my 16-year-old existence.
That's pretty sad, Matt Bacon.
I didn't have a lot of friends.
Yeah, we should probably start wrapping up soon. I'm getting hungry, dude.
Yes, I'm getting hungry as well. But point being,
we're doing this all for you guys in the middle of dinner hour.
Yes, fighting through the hunger pangs.
Exactly.
I wish I could be watching more baseball right now, but the Phillies are also doing terrible.
In reality, that's probably us being hungry probably either made for a better podcast or it made for a worse one. We'll find out later.
Yeah, leave us some feedback in the comments. Comments are our oxygen. Please let us know if somebody cares.
Well, I do get a lot of DMs about it, but comments in the actual section would be kind of neat too.
Yes, comments are awesome. Thank you, especially to Keith, who's been a huge supporter. Bucky Brown has been a big supporter. We got
to get one of those guys on the podcast one of these days. We keep talking about having a guest, and we never do.
We're just bad at it. Anyway, final things to plug. Curtis, go.
What do I want to plug today? That's a good question. You know what I want to plug? I want to plug the fact that there was an awesome premiere today that I worked with a band called Flummox. And Flummox is really weird. They're like this weird Zappa-ish type thing, and I normally didn't really care for Zappa much. Actually, it's probably more like Mr. Bungle. But anyways, I thought it was really cool. We just released it. Came out at Echoes and Dust. The name of the song is A Bundle of Sticks. I highly recommend that you go over there and you check it out because the band is weird but really, really cool if you give them a chance. So that's my plug.
Awesome, cool. I'm if you email me, matt@dropoutmedia.net, I will give you a free hashtag list. I'll probably try to sell you something after, but again, free hashtag list, 100 fucking hashtags. Hell, I'll tell you what I'll try to sell you is I'm doing weekly social media feedback. It's only $50 a month. And you get like a social media plan plugged in and hella fucking likes and shit.
Yeah.
People have seen tangible benefits. Anyway, This has been another episode of Dumb and Dumbest with Matt Bacon and Curtis.
Let's get done, Matt. Are we done? Are we done? We done?
Oh my God. Okay. That's our joke. I hope you guys appreciate the joke. We're done.